All right, so today we are diving deep into a really unique and frankly complex worldview. It all comes from a YouTube monologue by a creator named Omniscience Jen. And this theory, it tries to explain, well, pretty much everything, from why people act strangely in public all the way up to cosmic power struggles. And it all hinges on one single idea, something called an external force.
So, here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to start with a pretty simple observation about how people act, then we'll get into the core theory of this external force. After that, we'll look at the different ways it supposedly controls people, unpack a really wild cosmic analogy, and then finish up with the source's, well, pretty grim final verdict.
Okay, so to really get into this whole worldview, we've got to start with a question about something you've probably seen yourself out in the real world.
The whole thing starts by asking us to think about this. You know when you see someone in public and they're just completely losing it? Shouting, yelling, seemingly out of control? What is really going on there? What's the actual cause?
Now here's the first big twist. The source material basically says forget everything you think you know. It tells us to just push aside the usual answers, like intoxication or mental illness. The argument is that to really get it, we need to look past all the physical and medical reasons we're used to hearing.
And that's because, according to this theory, there's something else at play entirely, a hidden influence. This is really the heart of the entire belief system.
And here it is, the key concept, an external force. So the source defines this as a power that comes from a spirit world. It's an influence that can directly interfere with and affect our physical reality. They even speculate it could be a type of dark matter. Pretty wild, right?
And let's be crystal clear, this influence is not a good thing. The source calls these forces disgusting existences and claims they've basically been a plague on humanity for centuries, going all the way back to ancient times. So if this force is out there, how does it actually work? Well, according to the source, it has two very different ways of manipulating people.
And this distinction is super important to the whole theory. On one side, you have overt possession. Think of this as the loud, violent, hostile takeover. It's totally obvious the person is not themselves. But then there's covert control. And this is the much sneakier one, where the person looks and acts completely normal, but they're secretly a puppet.
To back up the whole overpossession idea, the source points to some really old stories. For instance, the myth of Heracles, who was driven into a murderous rage by the goddess Hera, or the biblical story of King Saul, who gets possessed by an evil spirit and tries to kill David. In both of those cases, the possession is, well, it's unmistakable.
But this is where the source delivers its main warning. When it comes to that second method, covert control, the victims are indistinguishable from everyone else, and the argument is that's what makes them truly dangerous.
The really crazy part is, these so-called puppets have no idea they're being controlled. They believe their thoughts and actions are their own. And the source makes a perfect comparison here. Agent Smith from The Matrix, an entity that can just take over anyone connected to the system, turning them into an unwitting agent. It's that kind of idea.
Okay, so now we're going to zoom out, because this whole idea of warring forces, it doesn't just stay on a personal level. It gets expanded into this huge, grand analogy for cosmic politics.
So check this out. The source is basically saying the celestial realm operates just like our world of international politics. You've got a set of laws, heaven's rules, that are supposed to be like UN law. But you've also got powerful factions, a rogue superpower, and an ineffective power. And they fight their battles indirectly, using us humans as their proxies right here on Earth.
And the crucial point here is that in this view, the divine order is totally broken. The rules of heaven are considered a complete joke, because just like in our world, they are never actually enforced against the most powerful players.
To make it even more specific, the source compares the forces of Yahweh to a rogue USA, just acting with impunity and ignoring all the laws. Meanwhile, it likens Eastern deities to China's foreign ministry, only able to issue these verbal condemnations while doing nothing of substance. So what's the end result? Chaos on Earth, with these external forces operating without any real consequences.
And all of this leads us to the fifth and final section. The source's pretty grim and all-encompassing conclusion for every single being involved in this cosmic conflict.
There's no ambiguity here. According to this worldview, the judgment that's coming is final, and nobody gets a pass.
So who's on the hook? Well, the source points to three guilty parties. First,
the puppet masters, the external forces themselves. Second, the human puppets who are being covertly controlled. And third, any being, human or animal, that is overtly possessed.
And here's maybe the most chilling part of the verdict. Not knowing that you're a puppet doesn't make you innocent. In this framework, ignorance isn't a defense. It is the very definition of guilt.
The consequences, as they're laid out in the source, are severe and universal. It states very clearly that everyone who's deemed guilty, the controllers and the controlled, will face the exact same fate.
So, to wrap it all up, the worldview we've just walked through is one where humanity is basically the battlefield for a cosmic proxy war. And in this war, there are no innocent bystanders. Everyone is considered part of the problem and will be held accountable.
It's a complex, pretty intense belief system for sure, and it leaves us with one final question to chew on. Regardless of whether you accept this particular explanation, what unseen forces do you believe might be shaping our world?